Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. So we're gonna dive right in here. If Jerome and Chris, or if everyone will put their cameras on for just a moment, I'm gonna introduce who our speakers are today and panelists. Super. So just quick introduction, and then we're gonna dive right into the content. So I have Jerome Boyer here today from Air France KLM. He is expert in finance, but he also brings an industry hat as the vice chair of the Passenger Standards Conference Settlement and Accounting Board. And then I have Chris here, Christoph. Thank you. And he is here as both bringing his hat as within the Lufthansa Group and also as a member of the Airline Retailing for Finance Working Group, which sits under the Industry Financial Advisory Council here within IATA. So both an industry hat and an airline hat. And then Andre is joining us. And he is the head of industry architecture and standards here at IATA with a specific focus on finance. So he's going to be bringing his industry finance hat as well. I am joining you. I'm Kitty Little, and I am the secretary of the Airline Retailing for Finance Working Group. And so with pleasure, we are going to kind of bring this all together as the second webinar in the series on the business reference architecture. So I'm going to start with a very quick introduction to modern airline retailing and to the business reference architecture, but it'll be very quick. So if you'd like more information, please do go and see the first webinar. Oh yes, let's turn the cameras off. Perfect, thank you. So we'll dive in with a quick introduction. Then from there, we'll come into some more roundtables and more information further. So the airline retailing, the Modern Airline Retailing Initiative is an initiative throughout the industry. You can see here the three pillars that are within it, which was structured and built based on recommendations from 3 of the IATA advisory councils, the Industry Financial Advisory Council, the Distribution Advisory Council, and the Digital Transformation Advisory Council. I'm just going to do a very brief overview. So I'm actually going to start right in the middle of the screen. So selling with offers is probably most widely known throughout the industry for the NDC initiative and standards that came about. But selling with offers is actually much broader than that. It's really just a transformation in the way in which you manage your products, you connect with partners, your channel management and your offers, just broadly across all of that. And then how you manage payment in a new world of offers and orders. What does it look like for payment? And these are all big changes in their own right, but they also are changes that need to work together. Likewise, once you are selling with offers, or as you move into an offer and order world, how you fulfill with those orders is really quite a large change for the industry. And so you can see there that we're covering under order management. There's also order accounting and financial management and delivering using orders. So I just want to say that we're going to really focus in today on that order accounting and financial management. So you'll see that's our topic for today, but we'll come back to the others in future webinars as we move forward. Please check out the full list of Modern Airline Retailing webinars. They've got many different topics in there. And then I'm going to briefly talk about digital identity because I think only about 5% of the industry is even thinking about this or looking at it, but it's a game changer for all of the other capabilities and boxes. And the reason is this is really important is it changes how we function within the industry, and it's kind of the world is already revolutionizing on digital identity, and so the airline industry will be using that as well. And just to briefly say, the 3 blue boxes you see there at the bottom are how IATA supports this entire industry initiative to change. And so we look across the standards and the communication and advocacy. So if we can jump on to the next slide. The offers and orders transformation in modern airline retailing is primarily an airline transformation, and it's why we're looking at the initiative primarily from that viewpoint. It transforms the entire industry, but the offers and orders aspect of it sits within the airlines. And so as you can see there, probably you recognize kind of the boxes on the left-hand side, the blue boxes, is where we're at today. And then you can see the future capabilities there. And I would just note on this that you can see briefly there that some of them are decommissioned and some of them are radically transformed. Some of them are similar to what we have today, but they function in a very different way. So just looking forward to the future and looking at the transformation. If we go ahead to the next slide. Great. So it is a transformation within IATA of standards. We are really supporting the industry with the standards. Well, the industry is supporting itself with the standards as they work through IATA, leading on this. And so you'll see that there are standards in each of these areas, quite significant ones. And then if you'll go further, we have the business reference architecture, which has been adopted as a recommended practice by the PSC. And this recommended practice actually kind of has the framework for all of it. It pulls all of it together and offers an overview overall. Next. So as you can see here with the business reference architecture, it is a mapping of the capabilities within the airline. And you'll see that there are there are groupings within these capabilities. So you can see there's an offer management one. You can see there's the you can see product management in there. You can see financial management all the way over on that right-hand side. And for the purposes of today, where we're going to sit and focus is on the financial management. I just want to point out to everybody that there's a QR code down in the corner there. And if you, throughout our presentation today, there will be QR codes. And if you just go ahead and scan them, they'll take you to further information in the future. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our very first roundtable discussion, where we'll talk about the big themes and the big overall view. So Jerome and Chris, if you'll put your cameras on for me. Okay, super. So I'm gonna start out by asking a few questions, and I'm actually gonna start with Jerome because I want to kind of take a look at the big overall. So what opportunities does this offer and order management transformation bring to financial management? How do you see this as kind of an overall opportunity?
For me, really, I will compare it to the introduction of the iPhone by Steve Jobs in 2007. It's a revolution somewhere, a big change. And for me, it will really ease and simplify the work of all the industry and help, in fact, really to change the current modes that are really complex, cumbersome, and into something that is simple. And the main benefit is that everything will be calculated upfront at the offer stage, and we will receive as finance definitive figures and accurate figures, and we'll account them in a really simple and fast way. So for me, it's really a big change, and it's a huge improvement in the quality of data.
Thank you, Jerome. Chris, I wanted to ask you, so what's the driver to rethink financial management and really the thinking behind the financial management aspect of the reference architecture?
So for me, the offers and orders are not only transforming the customer-facing processes, but it's also an opportunity to rethink the entire financial management framework. Rethink, in this case, means simplification. It means also despecialization. Despecialization from airline-specific processes such as revenue accounting process, and transforming these processes, revenue accounting processes and other special processes, towards the models which other industries are also operating, and towards the model of retail order accounting.
Super, thank you. So I'm going to actually, sorry to bounce back and forth, but Jerome, from your perspective in the industry view, as the Vice Chair of the Settlement and Accounting Standards Board, how does redesigning financial management and the business reference architecture actually help with standard setting in the standard setting space?
Yes, the fact that this was brought by IATA is really an help to work on the interfaces to understand better the way we are dealing with the new process, and also define some standards in terms of communication between the app, having a common language also. It's a way to standardize the approach about offers and orders. So it's really helping us to have an end-to-end view. And also, it's a way for finance to be able to demonstrate that the importance to take into account the finance issues or concerns in all the domains. So really, it's a way to have an aligned language to talk about the same thing and to have a common view on the future processes. So it helps really in the standards definition to be sure that we each understand the same way the future model of the industry.
Super. Andre, just tagging in on that, because as it's the framework for and really helpful to the standard setting, is the business reference architecture complete? Will it evolve in the future?
Well, just like with any other standard, I suppose, or recommended practice for that matter, it's never really quite complete, because there's always room to, further mature it and to grow it and to sort of enhance it based on new facts that you're finding or some of the inputs that are coming from airlines and partners that have gone into their implementation journeys and are bringing in some maybe new facets to the way that this framework has been designed, and maybe some new capabilities or maybe more granularity to some of the capabilities. So short answer really is that no, it's not fully completed, because it will evolve as the industry evolves, and it will evolve as airlines get sort of more mature and further down their journeys into retailing. And yeah, we'll continue to have it updated.
Super. Chris, since it's an ever-evolving document, what was used as the starting point in how we were rethinking financial management, and what that framework should look like in an offers and orders world?
I mean, when defining something new, it's always wise maybe not to reinvent the wheel, but to look how the others do that, and that's what we did as a starting point. I mean, the others do not have the example I gave before about the revenue accounting. I mean, you do not find this example in other industries. What you find in other industries is the classical order-to-cash process, procure-to-pay capability and practice. So actually, the benchmark against other retailing industries was the starting point for defining the reference architecture.
Excellent. How are we going to manage this change? And I think I'll ask the IATA person, Andre, how are we going to manage this change moving forward?
Yeah, well, this is, again, this reference architecture, business recommended practice, or any other standard that we have in IATA's portfolio is not IATA standard per se. It's the industry standard that is maintained by IATA on behalf of the industry, and obviously has been developed by the industry in a collective efforts coordinated through IATA Secretariat Services. So the change management process, well, first of all, any airline or any partner for that matter is fully able and capable of suggesting changes, introducing changes, change suggestions to the relevant business groups that are looking at it. And then the ultimate change management is going through the framework of Passenger Services Conference, and more specifically through our Architecture and Technology Strategy Board that is responsible for the change management process. But again, and then once we get into more details of it, then you'll see what's included, what's not included. If there is anything that you might want to suggest or get into the game in having us or having the industry improve it, then by all means, you can join any of the standards development groups under the Passenger Services Conference and kind of pitch in and provide your input in the relevant areas of expertise. So there is a industry-owned change management process, if you please. So it's the industry that will collectively decide what goes in, what doesn't go in, and it's the industry that will ultimately vote for any of the changes that may be introduced into this framework.
That sounds like everybody can get involved, or all airlines can get involved, and airline people. Absolutely. So then let me ask, how much help do we need? And Jerome, I'm going to ask that in a slightly different way. How major of a transformation is this in terms of standards that the industry needs and needs to move forward?
The change in the standards, the most tricky part, let's say, most tricky part is to change our mindset. In fact, we should think the target situation to have really people thinking on the impact on the standards. And that's a real challenge because we are all working in a very old environment with old standards, and we have some standard reactions, and we should really think differently, have people thinking differently. That's what we are doing in working groups. Try to think differently and to really think, okay, what will it be in the future without thinking about the today concerns. So the main transformation we have to do is with ourselves, let's say, to say that, okay, think future, and then see what are the big challenges we have to cover in order to have an efficient solution for the future, an efficient standard that helps all the system works. So it's really a challenge because we are working in a very standardized process with a different way of working, and people have to have a huge reflection and a huge think about how to make the future efficient. So for me, the difficulty is to achieve it is there, think differently, and have the participation of a lot of airlines to have all the concerns that exist in our world.
Excellent. Chris, I could just ask you one last question, and then we're going to have Andre come in and talk a little bit more about what we're actually looking at in finance. So from your perspective as an airline, or an example of your airline, why does this industry change actually matter to you in finance? And stick to the high level until Andre, I'll come back and ask the question again, but after Andre speaks. So.
For me, it's an opportunity, if we do it right, to have smoother, leaner, and more simplified processes. I mentioned already the comparison against the other industries. If you look into the processes which other industries have, you do not find in the processes a retroactive audit of sales with retroactive collection of transactional value, right? So this transformation is an opportunity to reduce the necessity of sales audit. I mean, maybe even completely eliminated out of the process chain. That's one example. I mean, second example, which I see in my area, is within the reconciliation. I mean, reconciliation currently in some areas is still a pain point. Reconciliation of accounts. With the new supplement with order concept, it is an opportunity to much increase the automation ratio of reconciled items, hopefully to even 100%. So these are the examples. I mean, Jerome also mentioned transparency, improved liquidity for the customers. So these are the opportunities which you see within finance processes.
Super, thank you. So Andre, the other three of us will go away, and if you would just take through a high-level look at what we've been working on in finance and that transformation, it'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Kitty, and just don't go away for too long, too far, because I think we're going to need you back at the table in a few minutes. So before we get into the second round of discussions, I wanted to give you an overview of what's included in the financial management reference architecture, and on which principles that it has been that it was built. So first and foremost, well, what you see here on the screen now is some fundamental assumptions that we took, that the industry took as we went into constructing this reference architecture. Now, these principles are not only guiding principles for reference architecture, but these are the same guiding principles that we use in standard setting in the area of settlement and accounting board. That's something that is driving also many of the work groups that work on the actual hands-on data interchange standard. So some of the key principles here, as you see, they're around orders that are being owned by the airlines and are always being accurate and up to date, leading into having your order as a single source of truth. And this is probably the most important and the most fundamental concept that drives everything else that goes on after it, say, on the downstream processing. Now, together with control and being the single source of truth, there comes well, the whole area of having the ability to fully control what happens within the order and how the order is being managed at the upstream level. So I guess the key point here is the last point you see listed on a screen, which is the correction process that never happens outside the orders. So again, one of the other key assumptions is that anything that has to change in the order, it has to go through an offer or a reshop, whether technical reshop or customer-initiated reshop, and then end up in the order record. And it's the order record that then will drive any changes on the accounting side. Now, another area is pricing. So that's another set of key principles that we looked at, and that's about granularity. So having pricing to be prepared at the offer level, at the right granularity level, at the service level, and making sure that the same granularity is something that is then transported into the order so that it's not lost. So basically, as any downstream process has access to the order at the right granularity level, and then going back to some of the discussions that we'll probably have later, for instance, eliminating or reducing the need for any sort of proration activities as one of the use cases here. So component split values, I think I just talked about that. So we're talking about having a service level values that are being recorded, either from a pricing perspective in a customer facing view of the order, or internal values that are at a service level as well, which are not necessarily customer facing, but which are then used for accounting, reporting, and settlement. So next level of granularity. And one other set of area of principles is around settlement. So settlements between airline partners or between sellers and retailer airlines are happening based on the pre-agreed settlement values that are also calculated at the time of the offer and then recorded in the order and are stored in the order for any sort of use by downstream systems, whether at financial management level or any other. And then I already mentioned, I think, changes that should go through the reshop process and end up in the order, and actually are based on the principle of having any sort of settlement values to be pre-agreed at the time of a reshop between the seller and the retailer, or between the retailer and a supplier airline in some sort of an airline scenario, or any other partnership scenario where airline wishes to resell somebody else's services. So these are the principles that have driven us into redesigning this set of financial management capabilities, and is also something that is driving us as we work on the hands-on data interchange standards development. So if you get onto the next slide, so we will get into the end-to-end reference architecture. We did have a series on this one before, so just for today, if you click one more time, we'll zoom into financial management. And so you can see how it is constructed and what is the top level of capabilities available as a financial management group that was designed. Now, just a quick mention, on the bottom of the screen there, you also have this little QR code. So that's just going to take you to more details where all of these capabilities described in a much more granular way vis-a-vis how it's described here for the purposes of this webinar. Now, from a top level perspective, and I think Chris has already mentioned that we try to stick to kind of more standard retail practices with order to cash and procure to pay processes, and that's what we had in mind in redesigning it. Surely we had to consider some of the specialities, if you wish, or particularities of the airline industry, and we'll get into it in a minute. But at the top level, we try to remain very straightforward and simple, and kind of speak to more standardized way of doing things. So we're looking at customer order accounting. So that's a subset of capabilities that hosts all capabilities that are needed to account for the customer order throughout its life cycle. So it basically boils down to an accounts receivable set of capabilities where you manage your customer orders from an accounting or financial management perspective. That's one top level capability. Another top level group of capabilities is partner supplier order accounting. So this group hosts capabilities that are needed to manage your supplier orders, or partners orders if those are maybe some different types of partners that provide different types of services throughout the entire life, throughout the entire life cycle. Now here, this encompasses both management of the receivables. If you are a supplier and you're managing something together with your retailer airline and you are expecting to get paid for some of the services that some other airline may have resold on your behalf, or managing managing payables when you're acting as a reseller and you have to pay out to your suppliers for any of the services that you may have resold and now are and need to settle with them. So this is encompassing sort of both sides, and it's all grouped together under partners and suppliers for accounting set of capabilities, and we'll get into more details around it. And these are the areas where we see most of the transformation occurring, because these are the areas where, if you look at it today, these are the areas where we have most of the very special airline specific processes, mainly in the area of revenue accounting. Now, there is another kind of top level set of capabilities under general accounting and revenue recognition, which we also expect to be transformed, maybe to a slightly lesser degree, but then also being quite different from how it is today, also for the reason of this being quite specific to airline industry as it's done today as a part of revenue accounting, or some preparation for postings that are done at revenue accounting level. Now, purely, I guess, for a completeness perspective, what we also did is we identified other top-level capabilities around corporate finance, treasury and risk management, enterprise performance management, and tax management. Now, those subset of capabilities are probably less affected because they come downstream or as a result of something that happens maybe at the customer or partners for accounting. But generally speaking, what the group saw is quite a lot of opportunities in improving maybe visibility, granularity, timeliness of having access to data, but not necessarily massive changes to the processes, because most of the processes within this within these three boxes are relatively standard corporate processes. So that's the top level. But what we did with the industry or with the group is we've gone into the next level of details to start identifying and describing the next level of capabilities which are included under this top level grouping. So if you click onto the next slide, starting with customer order accounting, as you see, there is a subset of well, pretty straightforward if you think about it, capabilities that are needed to manage your customer order. You're looking at channel evaluation and setup. You're looking at financial risk management on the channel level and on the customer level. You're looking at capabilities that allow you to create and maintain your customer or your seller in the system, whatever that entails. Then we get into order posting and the accounts receivable subset. There is a capability that allows you to manage, or that should allow you to manage interruption, suspension, or stop of the delivery of the service based on whatever financial criteria that may be identified and may be set up as a part of your customer or seller management. There is relatively standard customer order accounting capabilities, as you see downwards, as in bad debts, invoicing, collections, reconciliations. So those capabilities are the ones that need to be there to kind of complete the cycle of customer order accounting. Now, very similarly, if we click on the next slide, we have a group of partner supplier order accounting subset, which also is broken down into the next level of capabilities. Now, it should be mentioned here that one of the design principles here was not to duplicate capabilities across groups. That's why for some of the capabilities that may be applicable across groups, we've decided them to put where the group felt it was more significant to be put in. To give you an example here is when you're looking at partner supplier order accounting, then clearly you also need an invoice management capability. Now, that capability does exist. It was just grouped for presentation purposes under customer order accounting. but obviously it's something that needs to be available and needs to serve both customers as well as partners and suppliers. And there are a few other sub-capabilities that are of the same nature, where they do serve transversal nature across larger pillars, but they're only identified once just for the presentation purposes. Collections would be another example. Reconciliation would be yet another example. Now, if you get into the detailed documentation around this reference architecture, then you'll see it all quite well annotated and described. So it becomes more clear. So it's not something that I'm saying, it's actually something that we have documented on the industry behalf and for the industry benefit. But as you see here in partner suppliers for accounting, so you have similar subsets of capabilities in terms of creating your partner or suppliers, managing your supplier or partner financial risk, going into posting your receivables or payables in this case as a capability in its own right, and so on and so forth. Now, if we do click just one more time, we'll see what we have under general accounting and revenue recognition. So that's a pretty light box as it stands today, but the group felt very strongly that it has to be allocated in a group in its own right due to the importance of it and due to some of the transformation requirements in that area. So here we're looking at stock accounting, and it's about physical goods stock movements. That is not to be confused with inventory or seat stock. So that's really additional goods that might need to be stocked up or might need to move across different operations and then be managed from a financial, from accounting perspective. And then, of course, key capabilities here around revenue recognition, that in the world of orders is driven through order service item status level, or cost accrual, which is also driven through status changes at the service item level. Again, that's quite a massive change, or quite a fundamental change from today, where we don't quite do it at the same in the same way. So these are the top level of the first three pillars, which are expected to undergo the most massive change and massive transformation. And then if we click 3 more times, yeah, these are just descriptions of the overall capabilities which we've gone through. And then we click on 1 more time, then we'll get to the other 3 pillars, which is corporate finance, treasury and risk, enterprise performance management, and tax management. Now, as I said, these are not these are capabilities that we don't necessarily expect to be transformed all that much, but the group felt that we still need to identify them and put them in the mapping to make sure that it's clear to everybody that those haven't been forgotten, and we're still looking at managing them, and more importantly, interfacing them with capabilities on their customer order management or partner supplier order management, and of course, revenue recognition and general accounting. So here again, in the detailed documentation that is available, you can get into more materials describing what's included and how these capabilities integrate or interact with other capabilities, whether upstream or on the financial management level. So this is in a nutshell what this includes. As I said, there is a lot more details that's available to the industry. Surely it's not enough time to have it described fully in 1 hour, but I do encourage you to get into additional materials or additional details that will help you understand what's behind it a little bit better. Now, one point before we close on this presentation part is all these changes, and that's just more of a sneak preview, are bringing about a lot of questions around key controls that we have. If you just do 1 more click, we'll get onto the next slide. Key controls that we have around order integrity. So, I mean, first of all, just to kind of put everybody on the same page, when we talk about order integrity, it's about accuracy, it's about consistency, it's about regulatory and fiscal compliance, and of course, it's about reliability and security of the financial records that have resulted from an order, not necessarily retailing order, but generally speaking, an order. Now, if you do another click, and probably one more at the same time. So what it means, I mean, this kind of transformation of order account to order accounting is that a lot of the key controls that are now located at the downstream level, at the revenue accounting level, now have the opportunity to be moved at the right level of the value stream and be implemented at the offer and order management level, as opposed to being reactive downstream at the financial management level. Now, this is the work that we started with the industry and kind of getting into more details in terms of identifying what those key controls are, where should they be located, how should they be implemented, and where and how we should move from sort of compensating and reactive detective key controls framework into more sort of primary and preventative framework of key controls. So again, like, watch this space. I think we're going to get into it. Well, we are discussing it now, so we'll probably get into exposing it wider to the industry in the next few months. But just wanted to give you some preview of what this transformation can also improve is actually the entire controls framework that should actually be available throughout the entire life cycle of the order, because order is in a way a life animal, and order items can change, can be added, or can be removed. So clearly these key controls cannot be just at the one point of issuance. They have to remain on the order level all the way through on the life cycle until it's purged. So just one more click, and this is in summary. What this reference architecture and the work on financial management has helped us do is, if we do one more click, is to identify integration points and data interchange requirements with some of the upstream capabilities at customer management level, offer management level, order management level, and so on and so forth. I think Kitty's mentioned that at the top of the webinar. So what you see here, kind of denoted with those red stars, is where from a finance perspective, we do require a tight bidirectional integration and data interchange with certain capabilities under financial management. Now, again, this is a high-level overview to give you just a picture of what's available for you as information out there. But if you do look into the detailed documentation we have around it, then obviously we do describe what those interfaces are, what are those data interchange ethics are, and so on and so forth. So again, at your leisure, please, by all means, do download it, have a look, and have yourself kept abreast of what's happening. So with this, I'm just going to hand it back to Kitty.
Super. So thank you, Andre, for taking us through that. And good to know there's more information out there, because you can't get through an entire transformation of finance in a few moments. Yeah, Chris and Jerome, will you hop back on? Perfect. So now we'd like to have another discussion, and I'd like to take this discussion from a little bit less of a high-level industry and take it a little bit now more down into finance and into individual airlines. So no need to give your individual airline experience or individual airlines transformation movements or disclose anything, but I want to ask from a general airline perspective some questions. So let me start with Jerome and just say, in general, to an airline, what does this mean with this big finance transformation? What does it mean to an airline in terms of finance being involved? Sorry, I'm not asking that very well. What does this transformation mean in terms of finance being involved within an airline?
It means really a change of mindset, as I said earlier, and really a big transformation for the finance people. I can say that the organization could be different between airlines. So what I will say will not apply to all airlines mainly, but it's really a big change that we should prepare. We should move to, and we should also, and I refer to what Andre said during his presentation, there is a change, what we called in our board a shift of responsibility. In fact, a lot of processes that are really today under the finance responsibility will move up front. So we need to really take into account this, educate people of the other domains, especially on the commercial domain, to tell them there is a responsibility that you will take. So you need to have the guidance and the help from the finance people to take this into account in your processes. And really the business reference architecture, and also I like very much the slide, the financial management principles, the first slide that Andre showed. It's really a nice document to work on the subject and to have a discussion, a transversal discussion with the people involved in the change. So I will recommend you to download the presentation and to look back again to do slides to have a good look on what you will have to work on.
Thank you, Jerome. Actually, Chris, I'm basically going to ask you the same question from your perspective, because you sit in your different airline group. In general, from what you've seen, what does this transformation mean to finance in an airline?
The reference architecture exercise that actually majority of business capabilities are affected, and we are within our working group, but also within my company, we are strongly promoting that an approach that actually finance needs to be involved from the very beginning of the process, that we need to look into the process from the end-to-end perspective, right? So it's not recommended practice to build it from the upfront processes and only then adding the additional capabilities, but to look at the capabilities from the end-to-end perspective. Only then you can really utilize the full advantage of the transformation within the finance processes, and only then you can really simplify the finance processes.
It sounds like everybody's got to work together in an airline to move this forward, and it really takes a joint involvement in that. And Chris, you just said, finance getting involved early, and Jerome, do you see that too, where finance needs to be involved from the beginning?
Yes, clearly, as I said, there is somewhere a shift of responsibility. So we should inform and be taken into account at least the financial principles, the financial responsibilities, as we take into account everywhere, from the offer to the order, up to the accounting. So it's really important to involve the finance people with their knowledge and their experience. I used to say to the working groups and also to the board that in fact the jobs that are supposed to disappear in the future will be transformed also in different areas because those responsibility will stay in the airlines. So we need to have these skills and this knowledge also in the offer and the other environments.
Thank you. All of this sounds like a very big change. And so let me ask Chris, have you given any thought to the transition and how we manage this transition as an airline or as an industry?
Yeah, transition is a period of time where you probably need to think of things getting even more complex before they get simplified. That is because probably for a certain period of time you will have to run in parallel two worlds, the legacy worlds and legacy processes, and also when gradually moving the processes towards the offer and order concept. But even though you might be at a certain point of time 100% offer order ready, not all your partners might be 100% offer ready, and for them you might need to either still have the legacy process available, or you might be needing building certain bridges to manage let's say certain complexity. As I mentioned, I mean, the whole transformation is touching most of the business capabilities. So the change management is very important. I mean, communication, involvement of all the stakeholders within the company who are affected with the change. I mean, this is very crucial to make this a successful transformation.
Fantastic. Andre, looking at this as an industry transition, an industry transformation. So how does airline finance play into this overall industry change?
Well, I think that goes back to well, comments that we have from individual airlines even now on this webinar from Jerome and from Chris. I mean, finance has to be involved from the very beginning. And finance has to make sure that its requirements and its aspirations are well known at the start of the journey. And we see it on the industry level. I mean, some of the comments that I've seen from some of the airlines from their financial executives is that one of the reasons that their transformation took longer, or their plans for transformation took longer, because they haven't really accounted for maybe some of the financial aspects of what this transition and transformation is going to take. But as you see, it's not only about transforming the finance; it's also about shifting the responsibilities between different departments based on where maybe new capabilities are located. We did talk about just now about water integrity and shift of feed controls from, say, revenue accounting onto offer management and maybe pricing automation, from revenue accounting onto order management, where the expectation of the finance folks is that, look, it's not that we don't want to do these things anymore. It's because is that you can do it a lot more efficiently if you were to do it right for the first time, so that we can remove and deprecate a lot of the complexities of today, where we basically what we do at the back end is deconstruct and reverse engineer something that was readily available at the start, but then somehow got lost in translation. Now, if this is not communicated, if this is not made known, if this is not a part of the discussions with your IT vendors that you're sourcing to acquire your offer or order management system, it is very easy to overlook it. But once it's implemented, having it fixed is going to be either a lot more difficult and costly, or the fixes would have to rely back on the same band-aided processes of today without any sort of opportunity, or with a lost opportunity of having those improved and having those streamlined. So to me, it's almost a no-brainer that finance has to be a part of the journey. And to be honest with you, I think in the last probably 2 years, I see quite a change in mindset and in mindset, where I did see that maybe on the early stages, finance may have been sort of an afterthought. I do see now with a lot of airlines that I'm discussing it with, where finance is actually a part of the roadmap from the get-go, and is taking a seat at the table in planning on how to get into retailing. So that's something that I would like to see more of, and that's why I would always advocate for doing it in this particular way.
Perfect. It sounds like this is a shift from thinking about, kind of your commercial guys in distribution want to use offers and orders, to the full airline benefit of offers and orders. And there's opportunities there for everyone, the whole airline in all aspects. And actually, let me just ask Jerome and Chris to each voice. You guys already have, but I wanna keep it on a hopeful note towards the end here. So what is the best opportunity for finance from this transition? Because there's lots of opportunities in commercial and so forth, but I want to end on the hopeful of the opportunity in finance, so that everybody on this knows, who's in finance, knows that this is for them. And Jerome, let me ask you to go first.
Yes, for me, the best opportunity is really the simplification of the finance process. In fact, everything will be calculated up front. And in fact, at the end, finance will just have to record the data, and then it's done. In fact, it's really what we said earlier. In fact, we will have a single version of truth and not a duplication of information that are different. Today, we are fighting against the value calculated at finance, value calculated at sales stage, the value stored in the ticketing systems. So we have different versions of the truth. Tomorrow we'll have a single one, and we will post in our systems and give to the financial reporting a single value and definitive value. That's the main benefit.
Super. Chris, what's the best opportunity?
I share Jerome's opinion. I mean, my spontaneous thought was simpler finance. That's what we aim to build. I mean, I mentioned also about one additional my expectation is to increase the automation level, right? So simpler and requiring less human and manual intervention.
Yeah, Andre.
And just maybe to add and throw into the mix that I think it can also open up to a wider range of suppliers to provide services in the financial area, because today I think we're limited to specialized vendors. Whereas if it becomes more of a simplified retail framework, then clearly it's going to be easier to source vendors in this area as well.
Super. So we have a lot of information out there, and throughout this presentation we shared some QR codes. So Andre, let me ask you a question of how do you engage the industry, and how do we get the wider financial community to get this information and to help in designing the future? Because if it's not just static, if it's going to keep changing, how do we keep getting input into this from the wider industry?
Well, there are different engagement streams. I mean, first of all, of course, as I mentioned before, all airlines and system providers are welcome and to participate in our standard setting. So have a direct, not only direct access to this information, but then also having an influence and having a say in how it's to be developed and how it is to go forward. So I would always encourage all of the airlines and partners to come and join forces, because it's only together that the industry can design a sustainable set of standards that can be used now and in the foreseeable future. But that's on the participation side. Now, in terms of purely just engaging the audience and getting the information out there for folks to know more about it, well, we are hosting some webinars around it. We do disseminate information by releasing different publications, either as a part of standards or as a part of, say, the airline consortium that is quite active in helping the industry to get sort of ahead with this. And then, of course, there are some flagship IATA events that where we get the industry to discuss this maybe at a higher level. And I'm talking about events such as World Passenger Symposium or World Financial Symposium, which are actually now co-located in one place and at the same time. I think this year it's at the end of October, 30-31 in October in Bangkok. So again, this is a venue. This is a place for those that are interested to come to listen, to exchange ideas, and take it home to sort of see how it's applicable and implementable. So as I said, there are different venues. There's a standards venue, and there is more sort of like information exchange, experience exchange venue.
Excellent. Thank you all for participating. And thank you to all of the audience who came and to watch this webinar. If we could just scoot to, yeah, so Andre mentioned a lot of resources. And so to bring all these resources to you, and just you can have them at your fingertips. We're offering a few more QR codes. But each of these areas you can go, and there's actually a wealth of information there. It's a repository of information there. So thank you, Chris, Jerome, and Andre for coming and answering all these questions. I know that we've had a lot more questions coming in. Yeah, if everybody puts their camera back on. Sorry, I wasn't giving clear instruction. So I know that there have been questions coming in through the chat that we couldn't answer all of them today, but we will follow up on these and we will come back to you on them. We'll bring some expertise into it as well. So thank you so much for bringing your questions before the webinar, now during the webinar, and we just wish you a very lovely day and the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.